Yeah, Larry, appreciate your time. It seems like you're pretty busy taking a little break right now.
Yeah,
My first question, I know a
I
lot of the
thought
questions are going to be about kind of what you're doing right there. My first question is not about COVID. Just Lucas Niang told us the other day that when you first texted him and reached out to the new draft pick, you did so in French. Just curious how much you're looking forward to working with him and how much French you guys are going to be speaking up there on the offensive line and at practice, trying to confuse everyone.
just give me 1 second. I thought I was gonna have time to at least put my cell phone in a way where I can chat with you guys. It's gonna take a minute. Sorry about that.
You're right into the pool, Larry. We threw you right in, man. You're here.
I know. Sorry about that, guys. All right, is that good?
You look good.
Cool. All right, sorry about that. Okay, cool. Can you ask me the question one more time?
Yeah, Larry, I'm sorry. I know most of the questions would be about the COVID stuff, so I was trying to think of something different. But just Lucas Niang told us the other day when we spoke with him that that you had reached out to him. You were one of the first people to reach out to him. You actually did so in French, and he had to look it up to make sure that you weren't just messing with him, that you actually spoke French and weren't just messing with him because you knew that he did. Just curious how much you're looking forward to working with him, what you know about him, and just is French something you guys are going to plan on speaking quite a bit just to confuse Coach Heck and everybody else in there?
Maybe not to confuse Coach Heck, but it's for sure something we're going to work on. It's French is my first language, or of course, when I get a chance to talk French, I love to do so. And I've been speaking French with Ryan Hunter a little bit because he's from Canada and his mother speaks French, and I think it's kind of the same situation for him. So it's just good, to have a little bit of an inside connection. And I was talking to Rick Burkholder, and he was like, you know what, the guy we just drafted speak French. And I was like, this is amazing. Give me his number. And I reached out to him in French. Not sure he understood exactly what I meant with my text, but we'll work on that.
Let's go to Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey, Larry, I remember from talking with you about your medical degree and your choices having to do with that when you were at McGill, to balance all your studies and so on, you had to sleep in the locker room and wake up, go to practice and such like that. So now you're on the front lines with the COVID stuff and going through this virtual off season. Does it remind you of those times, and how do you think that those times may help you as you're kind of diving right back into this?
I mean, I think every healthcare professional, especially medical student, you work long hours, especially when you're learning. I remember, back in like 2013, 14, 15, when I was doing both at the same time, it was really hectic. But now I think it's a totally different mindset. I'm here more, to help, to support, to contribute in that time of crisis. And what goes through my mind is more like, how can I first protect myself, care for the patient, protect the patient as well, and doing all that while, of course, like trying to assist to as much virtual training as I can and work out on my home back home.
Let's go to Matt Derrick. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Doctor. You wrote a little bit about how that you're involved with the committee on advising the NFL and just how to proceed going forward. Just curious, what is your take about how, you feel like that the NFL should proceed, when you think it would be safe for everyone to get back, and, do you think you're going to be able to play a full season?
Well, you know what? For me, I see that more as a privilege to be able to sit on that committee, the task force from the NFLPA. And there's many committee that both the NFLPA and the NFL has put in place in order to kind of evaluate what's going on, and I'm not an expert, I'm sitting on that call. There's people from Stanford, Harvard that study epidemiology and public health. So I'm there to learn and maybe give a little bit of my perspective as a player, but I don't want to comment on what's going to happen. For sure, there's plenty of scenario right now, plenty of different strategy in place, and it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out. And I think that the number one thing is for sure to keep the players safe, but I think the NFL in general has also a responsibility towards the community and their fans. So making sure that we're not becoming like a vector of propagation for that virus. So there's a lot of question, and like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to evolve in the next few weeks, months.
All right, let's go to Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Larry, hope you're doing well up there. I wanted to ask you if you could maybe detail in brief what exactly you're doing there, and also how do you justify the tremendous personal risk you're taking here by doing this?
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's right now I'm working quote unquote as an orderly. Um, it was kind of the easiest status to give me because I'm kind of in a gray zone, you know. Having graduated with my doctorate in medicine, but I'm not in a residency program, so it was kind of hard to be like I jump in as a physician because I'm not really at this specific time. So the help that the healthcare department needed was mostly as orderly. So that's what I'm doing. But I'm doing also a little bit of nurse task, you know, handing out medication, making sure the patient are all right. I'm working in a long-term care facility right now. So, you know, the average patient is probably like closer to 80 years old. So it's a totally different mindset. I haven't really been exposed to a lot of geriatric patient throughout my medical uh, studies. So it's really a different mindset. And in that time of crisis, you know, there's just so many extra step you got to do, you know, in order to protect yourself, but also protect your patient. So, you know, we're wearing like our visor and our mask like all day long during the whole shift, washing your hands, and there's just so many precautionary measures in place in order to protect both you and the patient that it just make everything heavier in terms of task, and that's why they need so many people. Yes, there's a lot of medical professional that have been sick from COVID or are in quarantine right now, but there's also just more work to do on every floor. So that's why they need people, and that's why I'm here right now.
Let's go to Surin. Surin, go ahead.
Larry, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Number one, I want to be specific. Do you fear the virus, you know, personally? I mean, is there genuine fear of it? Because as Adam said, you know, you are increasing your potential exposure. And then as a follow-up, I know you're talking about trying to be involved in all the virtual meetings and everything that the Chiefs are doing, but obviously to maintain the kind of strength and size you need to play offensive line in the NFL, I would think takes a lot of working out. Are you able to actually get the workout in to be prepared to play football again?
Two different questions, but I'll try to do my best to answer. I mean, you know, this is I think everybody's concerned. Everybody's kind of scared a little bit, but at the end of the day, you know, I got my training for proper PPE measure and usage, which was really important for me. You know, just refreshing like how to put a gown, how to put a visor, how to wash everything, and you know, putting in place kind of a process that makes you feel safe. You know, and for me, that process was I have an empty apartment in Montreal that I use kind of as a transitional zone. So I go back home to that apartment. It's empty. I just throw everything in the washer, wash it with special soap, take my shower and everything, and then go home in order to like try to protect my girlfriend as well, who's back home, and I don't want her to get sick either. You know, so of course there are risks, but at the end of the day, I think you got to look at, you know, from a community standpoint, having, you know, like young, fit individual working in an at-risk environment with the best protective gear possible. I think it's the best way to fight this thing, and that's why I want to contribute. And I don't know what was the other question. Oh yeah, the virtual workout thing. You know, I think it's something I'm used to. You know, doing both. For the past 4 years, I've been doing medical school during the off season, working in hospitals with different shift, different responsibilities. So I'm used to like stay in shape, and I think the coach are trusting me, and I try to be accountable to the team as much as I can. I actually set up like a pretty nice little gym in my garage, so I do the best I can. But you're right, you know, as an offensive lineman, you got to put those plates on your back and squat in order to stay in shape. And with all the gyms closed, it's a little bit of a challenge. But you know, the strength and conditioning staff in Kansas City are doing an amazing job. You know, sending us workout, and I communicate with Barry on a weekly basis. You know, sending him like, what do I have in terms of equipment, and then he's sending me like workout, and everything is kind of personalized according to every player's ability to have access to dumbbell, rack, bars, and stuff. And it's for sure a challenging time, but at the end of the day, I think we're doing an amazing job with that.
Okay, Harold Kuntz, go ahead, Harold.
All right. Hey, LDT, hope you're doing good, man. Hey, just overall, how hectic has it been for you at the hospital you've been at? And then when did you kind of get the feeling that things were getting a lot more serious than maybe, you know, people have perceived in media, or just what you've seen out there on the front lines? And also, how many players have reached out to you about, you know, what's going on and what they can do?
Yeah, I mean, crazy enough, for me, the first time I actually was confronted to the coronavirus was at the Super Bowl when the reporter actually asked me what I thought about it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to go play, the biggest game of my life. And I'm not really focusing on that right now. And crazy enough, 3 months later, the whole, like half of the planet is in quarantine and it's a pandemic. So it's crazy how things have evolved over the course of the last few months. And for me, I think, I got back from a trip and when I got back home, I was put in isolation because I was coming from an at-risk area. And then I think it's kind of at that point that I realized that things were really serious. And then you see like the NBA and the NHL shutting down, school closure and all that stuff. So for me at that point, I reached out to the health ministry and the faculty of medicine at McGill. And I was like, how can I help? How can I be useful? And at the beginning, my job was mostly to kind of like promote all the new measure in place from a public health standpoint in order to make the community as safe as possible, with the social distancing and all that stuff. But at some point, there was like a shortage of people in long-term care facility, and I kind of proposed myself to go work. And of course, it's one thing to be like, I want to go work, but when you actually get the date of your first shift and everything, that's kind of when everything hits you, and you're like, okay, how am I going to protect myself? How am I going to manage that with football and everything? And the Chiefs have been amazing. I reached out to Coach Reid and the front office to see like, are you guys okay with me going to the front line? And everybody was really supportive and understand. I think that there's something a little bit bigger than football that's happening right now. And if I can contribute, I think I should.
Let's go to Greg Eklund. Go ahead, Greg. Oop. Greg, can you hear us? All right.
How we doing now?
We got you now,
Okay.
Greg.
All right. Coming off the Super Bowl championship, did that put you in a position to reassess where you are with your professional football career and where you want to go with your medical career? How many more years do you want to play professional football?
I mean, I don't have the answer to you exactly in terms of how many years. I think that there's some parameter and things that I got to look at from a medical standpoint just to make sure that I can still do my residency training once I'm done football and I don't have to restart everything. It's such a unique case that I don't have like the exact answer. But what I know is that I'm excited to go back to Kansas City, and that's why I renegotiate my contract in order to make sure I stay there.
All right, guys, we got 3 more questions on the docket here, and then we're going to let Larry go. Harold, go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't up. Go ahead.
Oh, you're not up? Oh, your hand's up. All right, let's go to Adam. Adam, go ahead.
Hey, Larry, just really quick, you kind of touched on it a little bit. Just what does your daily schedule look like? How are you balancing your doctor duties, and how are you balancing the Chiefs workouts? What is your daily workout, or as far as just when you get up, what are you doing from the hospital and then working with the Chiefs?
I work out schedule with my my O-line coach, Coach Eck, to make sure that I can be there for as many virtual workouts as possible. Those workouts are 4 days a week right now, so I try to be there for at least 2 of those, and then I try to like do more shift maybe on the weekend and stuff like that. It's as a medical student, the day are really, really long, and now the day are a little bit shorter. I wake up around like 5:30 and I'm done around like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So the day are like shorter, but it's hard to work out. It takes a lot of discipline to like go back home, after you take that shower and change into like fresh clothes, and you're not, wearing your visor and all that stuff, and then go hit the squat rack. But I think it's important to do it, and I think those virtual workouts to a certain extent kind of like remind you, football is just around the corner. And yes, there's a lot of uncertainty and we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it's just around the corner. And as a professional athlete, you got to stay ready. So, talking with the guys and just staying up to speed, watching some film, I think it's just like keep me in the loop and keep my focus also on training to make sure I can hit the ground running when I get back to Kansas City.
Okay, let's go to Surin. Go ahead, Surin.
Larry, Coach Reid talked a lot about how he thinks the offense has a lot more potential. And I know even after at the end of the Super Bowl, he was talking about, the ideas he had for where to take the offense. How much do you think that, maybe has to gear down because you guys can't get on the field, can't go through it, and you're just doing it virtually? Do you get a sense that, maybe everybody's just kind of bringing back what they did last year, or can you actually expand if you guys can't get together and have a real practice?
I think thinking that Coach Reid is just gonna do whatever he did last year is really underestimating him. He's gonna come up with some stuff, and from day one of the virtual workout, we kind of hit on what worked last year, what didn't work, and where we want to be as an offense next year. So we're already in the process of learning new stuff, and I think that's what makes Coach Reid such a great coach.
All right, BJ Kissel, you want to close us out?
Sure, Larry. I just want to ask because, and just give you an opportunity to speak to Chiefs fans who want to make sure that you guys aren't complacent after winning the Super Bowl, and that desire to get back there and win another one is still every bit as important as it was the first time. Just, what's your kind of mindset, and what sense did you get from your teammates, both around the time of the parade and all that, and just from speaking with them after lately, that desire and that fire to get back there and continue building this thing forward is still there, alive and well?
I mean, it go without saying, we're a great franchise, a great team, and we were able to accomplish great thing last year. And the awesome thing is that we kind of keep the same core, same coaching staff, same player, and we're gonna go do that thing one more time. And yes, after the Super Bowl, there's the parade, there's like a bunch of interview and festivity and opportunity. But for me personally, after 2 weeks, I kind of took like a little bit of a break. I went on a trip with my girlfriend, and that was, yes, to take some time to chill, but also kind of like to regroup, focus, digest whatever happened, and now, focus on next year, the 2020 season. And it's not a process that starts in the fall when training camp hits. It's something that starts, in March and February. And yes, we went all the way through this year, but I think it just gave us like even more kind of will to pursue that project of doing it one more time.
Well, Doctor, we know you're busy with some really important things, so we're going to let you go, but we appreciate you joining us, man.
All right. Hey, if you want a little bit of my cafeteria plate, you can be my guest. I'm going to crush that and go back to work, but I appreciate it, Brad. Thanks a lot.
You got it. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, man.
All right.